Hi everyone, I'm Hilton Forrester and welcome to this podcast. In this podcast, I'm really excited because I've got an author with me who's wrote a very special book, which I'll be very interested in. And it's a lady called Jan Cavelle, and she's going to introduce herself in a moment. And then we'll talk about the book and about what inspired her to write the book and some other questions. But these podcasts are for entrepreneurs and people like property people who are working online to generally go behind the scenes to help the community and help people who are starting out in business. So my target is to aim towards getting influencers or people who are out there trying to do some stuff, change the world in their small ways or big ways as possible. So I'm really excited about this one with Jan. So what I want to do, Jan, first of all, is for you to introduce yourself to the listeners, and then I'll ask you some questions about your book, etc.
Elton, thank you so much for asking me here. I'm equally thrilled to be here and very grateful for you inviting me on the show.
Okay, cool.
Shall I tell you a little bit about where I fit into all this
Yes,
and how I
please.
got here?
Yes.
Right. I am somebody who has always been involved in small businesses, micro businesses, or sort of SMEs that have grown. And as a side to that, my great passion in life has been a bit like yours to support other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship campaigns. And I've been involved in quite a few over the years. So finding myself with more time over, actually, even before I found myself with more time, I got involved in writing for a magazine online called Real Business, digital
Okay.
publication.
Okay.
And it instilled on me a great passion for writing. It's something I'd always wanted to do since childhood.
Wow.
And so when I did have more time, that spun off into being a full-time author. So I'm incredibly lucky doing something I love to do, combining writing with my passion for entrepreneurship.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. A full-time author as well.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So the book Scale for Success, what inspired you to write that particular book?
Well, I mean, I had this decision that I was going to write full time, and business seemed the obvious answer because of, I mean, I'd written and sent articles into Real Business for and some other publications actually, but predominantly Real Business. But I'd done that for a number of years, probably 7 or 8 years,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
if not longer. And so something along the business line seemed like a fit. And I thought that if I could be of service at this point in my life to other entrepreneurs, doing the same sort of thing, supporting entrepreneurship, but with writing, it was a sort of perfect match for me. So that's what I set out to do.
Oh,
And,
wonderful.
I just feel if I can help one business, a little bit along the way, then that's a pretty great honor to be able to do that.
Great. That's an incredible way to start in terms of that. Now, with you being a full-time author, I think a lot of the times, because I think I told you offline that I'd started writing a book myself, but
You
I didn't
did.
get as far as what I wanted to do. That there's so many people who you could say pass away with so many good ways of actually they've got great books inside them and so forth. So when you say you're a full-time author, how do you discipline yourself to do it? You know?
Good question. Um, I mean, I think actually I am so addicted to it. It's so much a part of me writing that the moment I start, I mean, I might have to, like all of us do, prevaricate and make the fifth cup of tea before I settle down. But when I actually get to my desk, the world could come to a halt around me if I'm writing, and I really wouldn't notice. I just get so into the zone with it.
Oh, wow.
But I just focus on it entirely and get lost in it. And to be honest, I mean, I meet such interesting people because I write about entrepreneurs a lot, and I just get fascinated and so in awe of what they do. And it's a really privileged way to live my life.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I guess with the thing with entrepreneurs are risk takers, so they generally would come outside the box a lot and do things what so many others won't do, as we know through history with that. But when it comes to your entrepreneurship, let's backtrack and talk about that. And what would you say some of the, I always like to be open and vulnerable in my communication. And the mistakes, the things which you would say got you to this position where you are now. Could you expand on that slightly?
How long have you got? Yeah, my mistakes are lengthy and copious. I've made most of the mistakes going in business. I was totally self-taught. I mean, I fell into having businesses purely by accident. Initially, really avoiding taking jobs, and later on because I was a single mom and I needed to build a business that I could do with the children at home. I didn't want to put them into childcare. So and that one grew because I wanted more for my kids, and I wanted to provide for them more more all along. You know what it's like with kids, they want more as they get bigger.
Yeah,
But no, I wanted what they to give them the best start in life, as one does. So the business grew, um, which was great, and I was very lucky, and I was able to do what I set out to do. But equally, I was self-taught, accidental, and everything else.
yes,
So for a growth business, I made an awful lot of mistakes. And I didn't prepare for growth as well as I should have done.
yeah,
What I know now, I would do a lot of things different. So I mean that was part of the reasoning behind the book, because in the latter years I was trying to salvage it and turn it around and put it right, and put right the sort of almost go back to the foundations. And it's like a house, of course, if you've built on the wrong foundations. Great foundations for a small business, but not so good for a bigger one.
yeah,
It's exactly the same as a house. It's not going to, however much you keep patching it up there,
yeah.
it'll keep on wobbling and fall down. So I learned loads and loads and loads. And I also burnt out.
Wow.
So, when it came to the writing, I thought, well, I can use that experience. I'm so familiar with mistakes and from very first-hand knowledge. And obviously, I mean, I wouldn't have survived as long as I did without getting some things right. I mean, we were very strong on sales, which I know is your thing. You and I
Yes,
talked sales before.
yes.
So put that all together. And maybe if again, if I can stop some other people making the same mistakes that I experienced, I think if you've actually been there and done it, that
Yeah.
it's as good a apprenticeship as any.
Oh gosh,
um,
yeah.
so and I've got a lot of very wonderful experts involved in the book who know far more than I ever will. So between my experience of what not to do and their experience of what definitely you should do,
Yes.
we're hoping to deliver something a bit special.
Awesome. Awesome. That's incredible. You mentioned one word in there which I've been through as well, burnout.
Mm.
Um, I know with you got two young children, and what would you say was the point of that? And how did you know that that was happening?
I don't think I mean, that was a lot later actually. I was okay as long as I kept going for the children. I think if you've got a very, very strong passion and reason to keep going, you can just keep driving forward. But when that reason finishes or gets taken away or life changes and it's not there, that's when you go, that's when you collapse. But I kept on staggering on and thinking this was the right thing to do.
Yes.
For permanently, I mean, my health was suffering. I don't know if yours went as well, but definitely health suffered.
Yes.
So I was spending more time sick, more time in hospitals, more time with doctors. So that was tiresome.
Wow.
And I was miserable, absolutely miserable. Every single day was, I would rather shoot myself in the head than go to work, but you just had to go to work. And it just seemed, increasingly crazy. But I kept on telling myself I ought to keep going. And I did it for years.
Yes.
What about you? Well,
I
how did you realize?
I think for me the burnout came because my background is construction, and I was
Mm,
dashing around the country on different building sites as a one-man person running 22 guys, four vans, one office in London,
yeah,
jobs around different parts in the country with no actual guide of what I was doing. I was taking on projects with no money on just to keep the guys going, and fell in problems with the VAT people, the inland revenue. So that was another stress. And then there was family things. There was disconnection to my kids, disconnection to my partner, and it was like you're on like a hamster wheel, and all
yeah,
you're thinking is. And the mistake for me, Jan, was when I went through the burnout, I still carried on through it. So I was running. Imagine you've got your brain at 100% and you're running around at 60%, and the 40% is all your problems and your issues, and that's what I was doing. And I
me
was
too.
lucky.
I know it well.
I
For you.
for you as well. So I'm hoping we can help many people to actually, because when I'm doing my coaching now, I see those actual
Mm,
things with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they believe and I think one of the lucky things for me, as I explained to you offline, was always keeping fit. I've ran four marathons. I play squash for 30 years. I do swimming and I train virtually every day now. And now I've added meditation to it. So it's really, I'm feeling really good. What turned it
yes.
around for you, do you think, to where you
Not
are now?
that. I mean, I was not fit, and because I got health problems, that wasn't. People started saying that might help, and I wasn't in any condition to get healthy. Um, and now, since then, I mean, I had to stop. I just had to do nothing for a few months. But what got me back on my feet? Yes, meditation. And definitely a routine of gratitude,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which during my entrepreneurial years I would have thought was a bit all airy fairy.
Yes.
But actually, I do find it really grounding and just gives me a different attitude to get up and say, wow, I am damn lucky every morning.
Yeah.
Um, and I used a vision board. Um, quite a lot of actually sort of, as I say, the sort of stuff I wouldn't have considered doing. Um, but and I just worked out slowly that I could have a life, and that maybe I was entitled to it, which I find very difficult to get my head around. Because as a business owner, everybody obviously thinks you're very lucky to have a business and things, and in many ways you are, but you are also a servant of that business.
Yes.
And you're used to putting yourself, and I think this is one of the reasons for burnout, you're used to putting yourself last because the business has to come first.
Yes.
And if you're a parent as well, you do the same thing. Your
Yes.
children come first,
Yes.
but therefore there's no you anymore. And so slowly you have to come back to life and think, I exist and I am a person, and maybe, I'm just about valuable enough to have something in my life for me, which is a real shock to the system.
That's a brilliant point, Jan. Thank you for that. I think that is so. And they, when you get on the aircrafts, they say put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping others, and that tends to be. And I went through that two years without even taking a break, things like that. It was
Yep.
ongoing. So I want to change gears slightly and talk about sales for success. Your book, it tells stories of growth entrepreneurs delivering some essential rules of growth and will inspire anyone who reads it. And also, I see some people, some founders, some CEO who's actually read the book themselves, and it's saying that with real frank discussions of challenges that plague small businesses. Could you expand on that in terms of
Yes, I
I
can.
mean,
I mean, I didn't want to write. I mean, I'm not capable of writing a very clever book, as there are some out there of, systems, for example, or solutions that nobody's ever thought of for businesses. But I've always felt that people do not. Yeah, it's something I came up against in my writing. People don't write honestly enough about how hard it is to run a business. When they come out and write, it's a bit sort of a public appearance. So they write how brilliant they are at business instead, which I can't ever say. So, but actually to be useful to people, and again, that's something I learned partly through my editors at Real Business. It's far more useful for people to hear, yes, it's hard. And yeah, I had problems with that too. So what I did was this,
yes,
and it just works better. And that's the sort of book I wanted to write. So in chatting to people, that was what I was aiming to do. Yeah, and very much the line I've taken as the sort of narrating voice, if you like.
yes.
I regularly say, this is something I messed up, and therefore, hopefully, you'll find this useful.
That's wonderful. It really is that I hear that often. That so the book is more or less from your heart. It's part of
Yeah,
it's not. You could say how it started out, and I'm a billionaire now, or whatever the case may be, and that's what I think a lot of times most people disconnect to that because they
yeah.
want to hear the truth of what the journey is, and what the journey is. I can honestly say it's simple, but it's not easy, and I'm sure you would say the same as well. Would you say?
I I would, yes, very definitely, I would. It's a
Yeah.
tough one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Inside the book itself, you've got stories of different authors and different people who've ran businesses. Which one stands out for you as being something?
The book takes you through sort of virtually every area of business. So we look at visions and values, and we look
Yeah.
at financing, and we look at marketing, and so on and so forth. And with each section or chapter, I've got the help of one particular entrepreneur on each thing. So hopefully, it sort of gives you almost a manual of these issues.
Yes.
Um, so I think it's very difficult. I think it fascinated me because I've been in business a long time. And it fascinated me how many people I spoke to were really trying to do so much good. I think that's something so much has changed
Yes.
in the years I was in business, where it was very much about profit and sit back and rake in the money. There were some amazing people that I spoke to who were just desperately trying to change the world and do good for people who worked for them, or change the world, or whatever.
Yes.
And they just blew me away.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Okay, cool. And when it comes to the change in the world, as you say, what impact would you say you would want to leave on the world if you had to choose one?
Personally,
Yeah.
um, I guess, I mean, we would all like to do it. I mean, I think now if I can have helped somebody with a business problem, um, that's probably what I'm most likely to do best. I mean, I hope I hope my son is proud of me.
Oh,
And obviously personal things, but in trying to do what I do, I mean, I genuinely hope that the book and the other things I write will be of use to people in business.
good. Okay. And when it's you mentioned about the some people who are starting out in business, what advice would you get to give them if you was to maybe start your journey again and, and looking back and say it's your son who's going to start it, and what would you say to them?
I think, I think it's a good point of yours that you need to look after yourself much, which is great if you're into fitness, but whatever you're into, you do want to really prioritize yourself and see yourself as a business asset, which I think entrepreneurs, a lot of them find hard to do. Find it hard to think of themselves as something of value. Um, and that's probably my biggest piece of advice. I mean, yes, you may be the business when you start off if there's only you, which means you work all hours and everything else,
Yeah,
but actually it's more than that. You are actually the most valuable thing to that business till you build it up and you can stand back and get out of that business and it
yeah,
can stand on its own when
yeah,
you've created real value.
yeah. Cool. Okay. And we've just come through COVID as well. It's going to be difficult to do a show without mentioning that word. And I guess what has been your journey through that, and what would you take away from it?
My journey's been incredibly lucky because, of course, doing what I do, I would be on Zoom and working at home anyway.
Oh wow.
So I'm one of the very, very, very lucky ones. But I think because I've been busier doing it with the tail end of a book and other writing, and increasingly I talk more and more to entrepreneurs all day, and it's that human connection which has grown in COVID so much, and it's become so important. I don't think it matters, or it doesn't matter to me that much, that it's on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's actually having an honest conversation with somebody. I mean, you can have fake conversations in person,
Yes.
but actually looking somebody in the eye, getting connected, it's just a fantastic experience,
Yeah.
and it's vital. It keeps you sane. Without that, we'd really would all be crackers. So I think that's really important, and I think that will influence the way we do business as we go forward into the next few years.
Okay. And maybe a hard question. Do you have a dog, Jan? Do you have
A
a
dog.
dog? Yeah.
I don't anymore,
Oh.
sadly. I've had dogs all my life,
Oh.
and I love dogs, but I've vowed I wouldn't for a while, and I'd try it without in recent years. That was very random. Why is that?
The reason why it's random, I've been doing a lot of walking in the mornings, and I
Mm,
see a lot of people with their dogs, especially over the COVID time. And I think the animal that gives out love the most is a dog. And so many
yes,
people do have dogs, and they you see nowadays where they've got in the winter in the UK they've got coats on the dogs, which looks weird,
yeah,
but at the same time they are one animal which gives out love 24 hours a day, and they extend your life and things like that. So I just kind of pictured myself with you walking your dog in the morning for some reason, but you've had dogs in the past, you said.
I had dogs for 40 odd years, so yeah,
Wow.
you're not wrong.
Wow. Okay. Cool. That's wonderful. And when it comes to the journey of the entrepreneur, say for instance, if you was actually um, uh, you had a person who you actually admire the most, which person would it be?
That's really hard because there are just so many. Um, there are a couple in the book. So many in the book actually, but that spring to mind, I think. But one is, you may or may not have come across, but there's a company called Outland Denim who
Okay.
make. Do you know them?
No, I don't.
They make very sort of high fashion jeans.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
and one of the things that actually is interesting in the book, the guy behind it, who I'll come back to in a second, talks about, because one day when Meghan Markle was dating Harry, she got off some airplane somewhere wearing a pair of his jeans, and he didn't know it was going to happen. I mean, she just actually happened to buy them, and his business went absolutely crazy because
Wow.
influencer plus.
Yes.
And he was still quite small, and it gave him all sorts of problems. You'd think it was a wonderful thing to happen. And I mean, it clearly was in the long run, but for a little while, it was all hell let loose, because he wasn't quite at the right size and it wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
So that's a curious thing that can
That's a
give you an
wonderful
issue in
story.
business. Now he's really grateful for it, obviously, and, in the long run. But I mean, his work is amazing. He got into what he does because do you remember the film Taken, the original one with Liam
Yes.
Neeson? Did you ever see? Yeah.
Yes.
So he saw it about the trafficking, the human trafficking, and he was horrified by it. I mean, he'd never had a big business,
Yeah.
and he was really appalled, and he started investigating it and learning about it. And in the course of that, he visited Cambodia. And loved the people, but he was horrified by the exploitation
Yeah.
in the factories there, and he determined that he would do something about it. And the jeans happened to be the product. To cut a long story short, we go into it in more detail in the book, but the jeans happened to be the product that he used, and he's created factories there for people to be able to make themselves better lives, and he helps with their education, and he just does amazing work,
Yeah.
and he is so dedicated and passionate about it. I mean, it's pretty gobsmacking.
Oh, lovely. That's a wonderful story. And it's always good to have these problems when it's going really well and you've got a
Mm,
big problem. Too many people at your show or too many books being sold or something.
I
And you've got
know, I
that
know.
issue of getting to the next level and you have to change and things like that. It's just a wonderful thing. So just before I ask my last question, where can people find you online and stuff, or where do they get the book from?
They can find it. It's already available from Amazon
Okay.
for pre-order, but they can also come to Bloomsbury's website or to my website, where it's got all sorts of links to all sorts of bookshops and book places. And that's jancavelle.co.uk,
Okay. Yeah.
JANCAVELLE.co.uk.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. And my last question then, over the years you've been doing business, what would you say was the outstanding resource or something what helped you along the most?
Well, now it's Zoom, of course, I mean, nothing comes close.
Wow, that's amazing. So it just shows you how things have changed then over
I
the
know.
time.
Yeah.
So you work from home and you can actually connect with everybody around the world. It's
Yeah,
just amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be talking to somebody in Australia in the morning and somebody in America in the evening. It's just wonderful.
yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jan. And I'm looking forward to getting my copy of the book and have a read of it. And I'll then let you know everything is good with it and so forth. So,
Thank you, Elton, too. I'd love to hear your feedback.
okay. Thank you.
My
Bye.
pleasure.